Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ella and today I'm going to be tier ranking every single book that I read in 2023. We have our categories. First, at the very top, we have God tier new favorites. These are books that are now on my all-time favorites list. They are so good. I love them so much and I have been thinking about them all year and I will continue to think about them and I love them. Below that, we have literally so good, OMG. These books are still excellent books. They just did not qualify as favorites for me, but I would still highly recommend them. Then we have A Fun Time, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a book that is just a fun time. It's not too serious. It's not a favorite, but I had fun reading it. And then we have You Are on Thin Ice, which means you probably did piss me off at some point, but there was a redeeming quality of some sort. But still, watch out because you are on thin ice, bitch, and do better. And then finally, we have Unpublish This Right Now. These are books that should be removed from the market because of how atrocious they are. And I hate them very much. I would not recommend them. They should be burned in a dumpster fire, perhaps. But unpublishing them would be a good start. So we have 40 books to rank. Let's jump into it. We're gonna go in order of the books that I read from the beginning of the year to now. So we're in chronological order. Starting out very strong is Song of Achilles. And I think we're going to put Song of Achilles in the God tier new favorites category because it's a new favorite. That's where it goes. Next, we have The Cat Diary by Junji Ito. That one was just a fun time. It wasn't my favorite by him, but it was certainly fun. Then we have The Empress of Time by Kylie Lee Baker. This is the second book to the Keeper of Night duology. I highly anticipated this book and I loved it. I think it was an excellent duology. So I'm gonna put this one actually in God tier new favorites as well because that duology is just so good. It's just so good. So that's where the second book is gonna go. Then we have Black Paradox by Junji Ito, which was very good. I don't know if it was literally so good, OMG, but it was certainly one of the better collections. I'm gonna put it in A Fun Time, but I'm gonna put it above the Cat Diary book. We have The House on the Cerulean Sea, which I listened to on Audible. The performance was excellent. The story itself, I did not like. I thought it was very, I don't want to say millennial coded, but that's sort of how I felt. The characters were just kind of cringy. I didn't like the main character. And what the author based the story off of, that he has said in interviews, was not a good idea. He should not have said what he said about what it's based off of because it just makes him look bad. And it makes me not enjoy the story. So I'm gonna put this on You Are on Thin Ice because I did really like the Audible narrator. Also on Audible this year, I listened to Bunny by Mona Awad and I really didn't like it. I'm gonna put this in unpublished right now because I had such high expectations and it did not meet them and I was really frustrated with the writing style and the just story as a whole was very pretentious and unenjoyable. All right, after Bunny, we have Legends and Lattes. This one's really hard because I don't know that it will persist over years as a favorite, but it was so good and it is a favorite of this year and I still think about it and I really love the story and I think it's so special. So I am gonna put it in my God tier new favorites, maybe slightly controversial. After that, we have Stephen King's The Institute. This one is also hard because I have not read any other Stephen King. It's the first one I read from him and it was a gift and it was really special and the time I read it was really special and it was really fun. But I don't think it's a new favorite and I don't know if it's literally so good OMG like story-wise, but I am gonna put it there just because I don't really have anything to compare it to in terms of his books and I had a lot of fun reading it, and I really treasure that memory. So I'm gonna put it in literally so good OMG. Next, we have Go Ask Alice, which is old now. I don't think anyone really talks about it anymore. It's kind of like super old, but it's an anonymous diary of a teenager who started doing drugs. Spoiler alert, it's not anonymous. It was written by like a super religious woman who was trying to portray drug use in the height of the hippie era as like horrific and awful, which it can be, but this book is silly and like exaggerated. But when I was reading it, I was very immersed. I'm gonna say unpublish this right now because it was like a propaganda piece. It was not an anonymous journal, and it was kind of dumb. Though I was immersed when I was reading it, to be quite fair to it. And then the next book I read, which is sort of related to Go Ask Alice and why I read Go Ask Alice, is 13 Reasons Why. I am 90% sure that the person who wrote 13 Reasons Why said that they were inspired by Go Ask Alice. I don't think it was his only inspiration or whatever, but they were sort of inspired by that, I think. I'll fact check that if I'm wrong. So that's why I read it. And I also actually really like the show Guilty Pleasure because I was a teenager when it was coming out. So I think it was a good time for me to have watched it. The book is fine. I'm going to put it on thin ice just because it's not that good. But I do actually like the book to the show because it gives you more context on Hannah's decision that I think the show leaves out. The book makes it really clear that everything snowballs into the next reason. All 13 reasons snowball together to make one big decision. Whereas in the show, it's really hard to understand that it's everything piling up on top of each other. It sort of seems like the reason she does what she does can be seen as silly to some people. But with the context, like, this is how she's thinking about it, is like everything over and over keeps happening and happening and happening, and it just won't stop. That makes it make more sense to me. But it is kind of a weird book. So I'm going to put it on thin ice. It's not my favorite. Next up we have Wayward by Amelia Hart. This book was really fun. It's like a generational story about this line of women and they're witchy. I'm going to put it in literally so good OMG. Also the cover is gorgeous. It was very fun. I would recommend it. I probably would reread it. It was that good. Next we have Death Note Black Edition Volume 1. I'm just going to put this in a fun time. I haven't finished the series. I'm going to probably reread the first one and finish them all this year. But I've seen the show, so it follows pretty closely. Then we have If He Had Been With Me, or is that what it's called? If He Had Been With Me? I don't know. I can't see the full title. I don't like this book. I might have liked it when I was in high school if I had read it then, but I didn't. It's just very juvenile, and I didn't like any of the characters, and I didn't like the story. So I am going to put it on thin ice, though, because I know that some people would like it, and some people love it. So I see the value in it there, but it just is not for me at all. Next, we have Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is the second book after Daughter of the Pirate King. I really liked Daughter of the Pirate King. I also really liked Daughter of the Siren Queen, but it isn't anything super spectacular, so I'm just going to put it in a fun time. Yeah, it was just fun. I actually think the second book, this one, was better than the first one, which is not typical, I don't think. So that's good for her. Next, we have My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I really liked this book. I thought it was super cool and fun and interesting. I really liked the story of the exorcism and the 80s vibes and all that. But I'm just going to put it in a fun time. I'm going to put it at the top of a fun time, though, because it was the most fun of all these, probably. Next, we have Circe by Madeline Miller. You've heard me talk about this a million times already. You know already it is going in the God tier new favorites. At the top of the list, probably. Okay, it is now night, which means, unfortunately, that the lighting is horrible. Please forgive me, but we're going to finish this tier ranking system list thing. After Circe, I read Reasonable Creatures, which is a feminist essay collection, and I'm going to put that in God tier new favorites because I think the arguments in that essay were immaculate and very good and definitely eye-opening and things I hadn't heard before. So that's why it's God tier. I also read around the same time A Vindication of the Rights of Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. That one I'm going to put in a fun time because it was informative and I really liked reading it. And I read like a shortened excerpt version, but it's old. It's interesting to know the history of where those ideas come from. I also read You Don't Have to Like Me, which is another collection of feminist essays. Also just a fun time. I didn't really connect with that one. Same thing with Bad Feminist. Didn't really connect with that one. So those two were kind of like 3 stars, not super helpful for me. Next up, we have Hang the Moon by Jeanette Walls. This is like just a general fiction, literary fiction about a small southern town when they were running alcohol like in the 20s or 30s or something. It was just a fun time. It wasn't that good. I'm actually unhauling it. It was a 3-star. I had higher expectations and it did not meet those expectations, so I was kind of disappointed. Sort of similarly, The Secret Life of Bees, I'm also just putting in a fun time. It was also 3 stars, similar type of story-ish. Not similar story, but they're both like southern good old time stories. And I just had higher expectations for both of them, and I didn't really like either of them for very different reasons. And then I read Treasure Island, also in the summer. I'm gonna put that one in a fun time, but I'm gonna put it closer to the top because I actually really liked it. It was kind of hard to get into because it's like a classic, so the writing style is older, but the characters were fun. I really like Captain Long John Silver's. He was really funny. So it's gonna go higher up in the fun time category. Read the Project Hail Mary audiobook. Now this one was amazing. I'm actually gonna put this in God Tier New Favorites because I think it is an excellent book. Incredible audible experience, and the story itself is so good. I haven't read any other Andy Weir books, but the characters, the 2 main characters, are so like sweet, likable, awesome. I've never like read anything like it or listened to any performance like it, and it's very sweet and I just love it so much, and you should definitely read it, and it's a God Tier New Favorite. Next up, we have Serpent and the Wings of Night. It's going to my God Tier New Favorites. It is amazing. It is my favorite fantasy I've read this year. Why don't I go ahead and put up 6 Scorched Roses up there as well in the same spot, and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. They're all God Tier New Favorites. They're all 5 stars. I really love the characters, the world building, the story, like vampire tournament. It's just very good. I love the romance. Yeah, I'm gonna be rereading it soon probably, and reading all of the books that come out in the series. Next up is Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This was one of the worst books I've ever read. The writing is horrible, the characters are all unlikable, the plot is very shallow, and I really didn't like it. I would not recommend it to anyone. Do not waste your time or your money. I'm gonna put this in unpublished right now. Next up we have Murder on the Orient Express, which was very fun. It was my first Agatha Christie book, and then I watched the movie and that was cool. It was good. I liked it. I'm gonna put it in a fun time, more towards the middle of that, I guess. And then I also read The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman around the same time. That one I'm actually gonna put on bottom of a fun time because it wasn't really for me. It was a slog. I might have liked it if I were younger. I have gotten rid of it already. It just was not fun for me. Next up is Fourth Wing. I am conflicted about if I should put this in a fun time or literally so good OMG. It was a fun time and it was pretty good, but I'm not really like enjoying the way the franchise or the series of books is going. I don't know. I'm gonna put it at the top of a fun time for now, and I might shuffle it around, but I think that's a good place for it for right now. So in that same vein, we have Iron Flame, which I'm going to be putting in unpublished right now. I'm not gonna say why. I'm just gonna put it in unpublished right now. Next, we have Carmilla. I'm gonna put Carmilla in a fun time because that's all it was a fun time. It was interesting, I guess, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping it was going to be. Next, though, we have Dracula. Dracula is going to the God Tier New Favorites. It was really good. I really liked it. It's one of my new favorite classics. Next up we have Smashed by Junji Ito. I'm gonna put that one in a fun time, but at the bottom because it was just okay. Actually, not at the bottom. I'll put it somewhere in the middle, but at the bottom of the Junji Ito books because it was okay. It had some stories in it that were not that interesting, I guess, but most of them were actually pretty good. Next up we have the Hunger Games trilogy, and all three of them are going to go in the God tier new favorites category because that's where they belong, rightfully so. And then Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes I'm going to put in literally so good OMG because it was literally so good OMG, but it's a different story. It's a different point that she's trying to make than what she was trying to make in Hunger Games. It was still good, but it's not my favorite of the franchise. And then finally, the last book I read this year was All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox. When I first finished it, I gave it like a 3-star. It was just okay. It was like mildly entertaining, but thinking back on it, it was actually not that good. I actually really don't like it. So I'm gonna put it in unpublished right now because I don't think it was a good book, and I think it had a stupid bad romance and bad tropes, and it was weird, and I don't like it. So it's gonna go in unpublished right now. And then that is all of our 40 books. And that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Got it memorized?
Got it memorized. And I will see you in the next one. Later, Tater.